to the Green Sparks podcast. I am your host, Charlotte, and this is your go-to place for conversations about regenerative education. Here we share inspiring stories from our Green School community alongside expert insights, all aimed at nurturing a love for learning and living that makes a positive difference to our shared worlds. Today we are joined by Shawnee, a grade 12 student at Green School Bali, and we're going to take a dive into regenerative tourism. Shawnee, welcome to the Green Sparks podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here, Eva Charlotte.
It is our pleasure. So let's start off, Shawnee, with just an introduction. The question that we ask all of our guests is, who are you and what difference are you trying to make to our shared worlds?
Right. Well, again, my name is Shawnee. I am a Balinese student here in Green School, and this is my 10th year so far. The difference I'm trying to make is I'm trying to offer a vision on how we might approach tourism differently in Bali through regenerative tourism.
So much to talk about here. It's really exciting. Let's start off then with the how. How are you going to do this? Because this is part of your greenstone, right? So for listeners at home, could you just take a moment to explain what is a greenstone at Green School Bali?
So Greenstone is a high school capstone project where individuals will do a project that they are passionate in, but also impacts the community in some way. So a lot of people in my grades, they're very diverse with their projects. Some people are passionate in surfing, some people are passionate in business, and so on.
Okay. And so where are you in this greenstone process? What are you up to at the moment? And what have you already been doing for your greenstone?
So right now I'm on the research stage, and I'm also, because I'm making a documentary for my greenstone, I'm in the interview stage. So I've been interviewing people, getting insights, and really talking to experts in the topic of my greenstone.
Okay, this sounds big. This sounds like a big undertaking. Also exciting as well, like your chance to go off and be independent and do the things that really matter to you. It's been challenging about this process so far.
I think what's been challenging is because it's finding these people who are related to my project. They are scattered all over around Bali. Some are like in Karangasem, which is up there. So it's hard to find time to talk to these people because they are doing such important jobs that they are busy all the time. And then when I talk to my project with them, it's kind of in a way challenging for me to talk to them because I am shy most of the time. And it feels like my project is quite ambitious, but all of that is actually answered from them. They always give me a reassurance that what I'm doing is right and that is one step at a time. So I think just doing the project is the challenge itself, like having responsibilities and making sure you're on track.
Yeah, there's a lot to manage.
Yeah.
All these moving parts. Let's talk then a little bit of grounding here. What's been your inspiration for this greenstone? Where did your ideas come from? Was it something that sparked you, or is this something that's kind of emerged over time since living on this island? So can you take a moment to speak to your inspiration, please?
I think, of course, mainly it's because I've lived here for so long. So I've witnessed how Bali has evolved over time. I remember when this era was actually, there's not much building. It was only Green School, the main one here. But now there's so many small places, small boutiques or small shops, cafes. But if you see it on a larger scale, like Canggu, most of the rice fields are now being taken over by development. But also, because I'm in an environment of Green School community, they are so aware of their choices. I've always talked to people and they're always saying about awareness when they're consuming things, whether it be supporting local businesses or supporting empowered businesses here in Bali. So I've always had that in the back of my mind, especially also my dad used to work in the tourism hotel industry.
Okay.
So this conversation was always in our household. And also when my dad retired, he went back to his village. He started something that he was actually really passionate in. He loved plants. He really loved plants. So he started a place where people could come and learn about plants, learn about Balinese culture. And from then, I also realized that in my village, there are so many women there who are struggling to find jobs because they're not allowed to go to these tourist dense places in the south, such as Kuta or Canggu, because of the patriarchal system in their household.
Right.
Because most of the time they're the backbone of their family. They're not allowed to go far. So my dad is trying to open work opportunities in his village. So from then it got me thinking, what can I do? There's many media coverage on this topic, but I don't see much on the youth perspective. It got me thinking because my generation or the next generation, most of them aspire to work in the hotel industry, the tourism sector, because their whole life, that's what their parents told them, that's what society in Bali tells them, but sometimes they're not aware of the side effects of that.
Right.
So I think
And that's what you want to really illuminate.
yes.
Now, we will have a lot of international listeners to this podcast. We have a rich and varied community here at Green School Bali. So, for people who might be thinking about joining this community, maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what Bali is like. Maybe you could talk to us about the kind of tourism that you might expect to see here, and maybe without exposing particular organisations, maybe you could talk to us about what degenerative tourism is and some examples of some that are regenerative, all within this Bali context.
Well, as we all know, Bali is beautiful. The nature side, the culture side, and the people here are very, very friendly, and they always love to help you. But there's a negative side to this. For example, if I were to give an example of a degenerative, would be the nightclubs, the nightlife here in Bali. It's so popular now that it has kind of taken away what people used to go to Bali for, the culture side of it. It's just now nightlife, cheap, affordable food, expensive boutique shopping in the side of the road, going to expensive resorts. That's the image that Bali has turned to. A regenerative example would be there's this one social enterprise where they work with local heroes here in Bali, and those local heroes are doing initiatives such as one of them is doing like coffee farming, the other's doing seaweed farming, and so on. And through this social enterprise, they really want to show the message that tourism can be regenerative. It can benefit the commerce and the people who are in Bali, the community. So from that, you can get the benefit of learning about these initiatives they're doing, the knowledge, the information. But from the money that you put in, the money goes back to their initiatives and impacts the nature, the culture, and the community here. Because regenerative tourism is all about creating travel experiences that restores and regenerates the community and the environment. But it's not just about minimizing the harm or sustaining the harm. It's leaving the place better than it was before. Yeah, so that's what you could expect. So if there's anyone who wants to come here, I think I would say research those places.
Do your research.
Do your research before going.
You told me a story that you had experienced on the beach. It was a time when a ceremony was happening. Could you maybe explain what happened and why this kind of moved you and what this tells you about tourism and the kind of damage that it does to Bali?
I didn't experience this firsthand myself, but recently there was an event that happened on a beach near a few clubs, nightclubs. There was a ceremony that was ongoing, and they have asked the nightclubs to shut down for an hour or for a night so that these people can do the ceremony. Unfortunately, the clubs did not close down, so they were doing the ceremony while those very loud music going on in the background. The entire ceremony, the clubs was on. And obviously, as a Balinese myself, it's very disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's very disrespectful that my people couldn't practice their religion, can't practice their culture
Yes.
in peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I suppose, I mean, I'm obviously not Balinese. I see some behaviours that I find a little bit shocking. So I can't imagine what that might feel like for Balinese people. I mean, and it ranges from the clothes that people wear, particularly perhaps going and looking at temples, the selfie culture that has now developed across the world, and then matters that are close to my heart involve the capturing of animals and putting them in cages. Are there any other examples of your own that you could share with our listeners so they can just be more aware when they go on holiday, when they're a tourist, to avoid engaging in these kind of behaviours?
I think as simple as when you were driving here, you can see in the streets of Canggu or Ubud a lot of tourists rent their own bike, yet they don't wear a helmet, they don't wear appropriate clothing on the bike, and some people don't even have proper driver license. And a lot of accidents happen that is correlating to these tourists using a bike, but they don't know how to use a bike.
Yeah.
And please be mindful of the clothing you wear in Bali, especially if you're entering a temple. There is proper rules to it, and it's not just about rules, but this is hundreds of years way back,
Yeah.
where the culture of Balinese started. Like, please do follow it, I think.
What clothes should you wear then? This could be a great opportunity just to emphasize
I
that.
think covering. So a sarong would be nice, like the how do I say it? The scarf, not the scarf, the long fabric wrapped around your waist up and down to your leg.
Yeah.
And a shirt, just a shirt would be nice. Just a covering shirt. That's it. But if you want to go the extra way, a kabaya, which is the traditional clothing of the Balinese people, would be nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are small steps that we can all take to just be respectful, right?
So yeah.
Okay. Now, there are many, many places for tourists to go across the world. Obviously, Bali's not the epicenter of tourism, but we will have people listening who might be thinking about their next holiday or maybe their next weekend away. So, as somebody who's really taking a deep dive into regenerative tourism at the moment, what kind of tips or hints or guidelines could you give people right now so that they can make sure that their tourism is not damaging the place that they visit?
Yes. The first step is to do your research. Research the places you are going. Is it locally owned? Is it locally empowered? Where, if they serve food, let's say, where is the source of the food coming from? And also, when you come to a new place, please do learn the language, learn what the society is like, such as like the clothing, the respect culture there. So I think I would say just do your research. I think is the first step. There are many, for example, in Bali, many social enterprises and initiatives that are making regenerative tourism places accessible. It's as simple as clicking on a computer and researching those places.
I like this idea of sort of tracing back the journey of perhaps food or how the money might be spent so that it kind of empowers the local people. And I guess doing research requires time. So making sure that you have enough time to actually, not just a quick search, but really think about the ethical choices that particular organisations are making that support the local people, the biodiversity, the soils, the trees here in Bali. Yeah, they're really good tips. But Shawnee, you have your green stone, obviously throughout grade 12. What happens? What's the culmination of this green stone experience? Maybe you could just tell our listeners a bit about that, because we might have some students who are thinking about coming to the green school, maybe for middle school or maybe for high school. They could start to think about, well, what could my greenstone be and what is expected of me and how will this be kind of articulated to the community? Can you talk to us about the culmination of this year of exciting, challenging, very life-affirming research for them?
I think Greenstone is such an exciting journey. Because I've been here since elementary, I've always been thinking about it whenever I see other people present their Greenstone project. I'm like, wow, I know that those individuals are also really passionate in their project. So it really does make that extra impact. And what they're doing are very genuine because they're so passionate. And so I've always had it in the back of my mind. I've always been planning, what can I do? What should I do? I think if anyone's thinking to come to Green School and what the Green School project could be, start with local communities. Start with what you could do here in Bali, and then work your way out to the global side of it. Yeah, I think that's a tip I would like to say. But when you are in the journey with your friends, with your peers, I do have to say Green School is a very supportive environment. So if you have any questions or any help needed, all you have to do is reach out, ask for help, and they're always very willing to help you. But also, there's a challenge side to it. All of this Greenstone journey are very independent. So usually you have to plan all of it. You have to make sure you have great time management. You have to make sure you know what your project is. Is the vision clear? Is the goal clear for the project to go well? Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that this is a presentation. I feel like it's so much more than that. Because I experienced the Greenstones for the first time last year. Wow, it was so exciting. Tell us a bit more about this, because people might be thinking, oh, this is like a PowerPoint and you just click through it and you present it. Talk us through that Greenstone presentation. What does it actually involve? Where does this take place? Who is going to be there with you?
I think it's more than a presentation. Like, we are not, I would not say required, but encouraged to do more than a presentation. So some people might actually go out to local schools and present this. Some people would maybe work with an organization to make an impact. And then when that is all done, they put this into one presentation and show their journey, the mistakes they've made, their initial idea, what can others contribute to their project or their passion. But I would say many people's Greenstone doesn't end just in the presentation. They keep doing it after school. After school, whether it be in university or their career paths. So it's more than a presentation.
Yeah. And that's why really kind of thinking about what drives you, what are you passionate about? That's really going to give you the motivation to keep going, right? What about you in your future, Shawnee? What are you going to go on and do after grade 12 at Green School Balis?
Well, I'm planning to go to China for university to learn the language and then go back here to Bali to keep working on this project.
Wow.
I really want to help, I think, my village specifically.
Okay.
So I'll be doing that after.
Wow, so exciting. Shawnee, thank you so much for being with us on the Green Sparks podcast. It's been wonderful hearing the kind of the details of the work that you were doing and hearing about how it's so meaningful for this particular place. And I hope that all of the things that you've said today will help everybody listening think about even small changes that they can make to their attitude, their behaviours, even their clothing, so that we can learn to be more regenerative rather than degenerative when we go and visit places. All the best with your Greenstone. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to our listeners who've been listening from the start of this episode. Be sure to follow us on our social media channels. Details are in the description. See you in the next episode of the Green Sparks podcast.